Let me first recognize members of the head table. Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit, Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Mr. Chairman, His Excellency Steve Farrell, Bishop of Roseau, Most Reverend Gabriel Malza, who I understand is here, Financial Secretary, Mrs. Rosamond Edwards, His Excellency Ambassador Eddie Lambert, Father Charles Martin, other distinguished cabinet members and members of Parliament, the Honorable Lennox Linton, Leader of the Opposition, distinguished guests all. Let me speak about the presentation will be in two parts. Look at where we are currently in the state of our restoration, that's DOMLEC, and then speak more in depth about what we intend to do and some of the initiatives we want to pursue with respect to climate resilience, as is the theme of this meeting today. Immediately after Maria, approximately 89% of our generation system was severely affected, and over 98% of our T&D, as our transmission, distribution, and customer delivery system, was severely affected by Hurricane Maria. Now, since then, we have done a lot of work, and currently, on the generation side, we have 14 of 19 units available for dispatch and generation. That's about 74% of our generation systems have been restored. From a capacity point of view, this represents just about 70% because our available capacity for generation is just about 19 megawatts, and our installed capacity is just under 27 megawatts. So that is just over 70% of our generating capacity has been restored since Maria. What is left to be done? We suffered, most of our damages were suffered at two locations, at the Fonkole Power Station. And what is left to be done at the Fonkole Power Station? We have just three units to be restored. That's the 3 MAN units. That's the name of the manufacturer of these units. And it's our intention to have these restored by April of this year. So we're currently starting the restoration process of those units. Our hydro system, which was severely affected, but we have now restored all but 2 of our hydro units. And the 2 hydro units that are still out of commission are those at the Padu Power Station, which is, for those who know the hydro system, it is the 2 units that are lowest in the grid. The estimated damage for the generation facility was estimated as about just over $3 million US. Now, on the T&D restoration, that's the transmission and distribution and customer delivery systems, we are currently over 8,400 customers have been restored. Our pre-Maria customer base was approximately 36,000. So that represents about 23% of our customer base, our pre-Maria customer base. The peak, our current peak, is about 36% of our pre-Maria peak load. And the load that we're generating is about 29%. Based on our restoration rate that we've been monitoring, we know that we have an average restoration growth rate of over 5.6% per week. It is our intention to increase this significantly. So far, our most recent estimation, the damage to the T&D system is just under 15 million US dollars. That's our most current estimation. And what are we doing? I'm sure most of us are very anxious to find out what are we doing to increase our rate of restoration. So as we speak, we are bringing in additional crews. The T&D restoration resource complement of just about 60 linemen and other personnel. We estimate that we need an additional 60 overseas resources from DOMLEC, from other utilities, and even we're recruiting overseas linemen contract companies in order to fill this gap. So currently on the ground, we have just about 42 additional overseas line resources to assist us. It's our intention in the next 2 weeks to have this complement brought up to about 60. And with this 120 line resources, we think we can significantly increase the rate of restoration and be able to meet some of the deadlines that we've provided. The challenges that we face, it's related to a lot of what was said before, and especially by our distinguished Prime Minister. A lot of the Caribbean region, the Eastern Caribbean region suffered, a lot of countries suffered significant damage based on these systems that hit us. And Dominica and DOMLEC is in severe competition with other utilities, other islands for these resources, and that's some of our biggest challenge, both for linemen resources and equipment resources. A lot of other countries are actually not able to provide the resources needed, so those are some of the challenges which we're trying to overcome. And it is estimated that in the next couple of weeks, we should be able to overcome some of these challenges. Some of these islands, Anguilla, etc., have somehow completed their restoration and now able to assist us with a lot of the resources that we require. From a resiliency point of view, we at DOMLEC are in full support of engaging in Build Back Better and climate resilience effort. And based on some of the opportunities that we have looked at DOMLEC. First of all, the most obvious opportunity is that in our restoration of the system, we simply need to look at how we have done, how we have built the system, look at the lessons learned, look at the damage assessments that was done, and understand some of the failure modes that happened, and be able to correct these. So in our current build back process, where we're building back in order to restore the system as is, we're looking at improving those methods. So we're currently doing upgrades to our pole class and pole type. So the types of poles and the class of poles that we have on the system, we're currently upgrading those, because we have seen some situations where, and especially the heavy laden poles, the poles that have the transformers and all of the T&D equipment, a lot of those poles failed. So we're increasing upgrading the sizes and the class of those poles. We're improving our construction methodologies, increasing the number of stays. These are the pole support wires that you see when you see some of these pole systems. So we're increasing and improving the design and construction of those. And we're also reviewing and improving our pole planting methods and standards. So that is just what we're doing to improve the existing systems. But we also think that there are some new things that we could do. There are some new initiatives. The Prime Minister mentioned earlier about the ROSO enhancement project. And DOMLEC is fully on board with that project. But this is also another opportunity for us to partner with the government and other stakeholders. And this ROSO enhancement project, we think, should be discussed, should be engaged, and should be maybe even expanded. The scope of the project we could look at. For instance, we think that to achieve some more resilience, could expand the underground system that is currently existing. A section of the ROSO TND high voltage system is underground. So in the ROSO enhancement project, we could look at expanding this. So we could partner with various stakeholders, with the government and other utilities in looking at this. We think that if we have underground systems to critical facilities, the hospital, the air and seaports, ambulance, police services, government facilities, etc., that would be a big step towards resilience. For example, immediately after Maria, we recognized the need to restore services to some critical areas. The Princess Margaret Hospital, for example, was one of these short-term target areas that we did. It took us about 2 weeks to get there. If we had a dedicated underground system from our Funkole power station to the Princess Margaret Hospital, then in a matter of days we would have been able to power up the hospital, and so on. And the same goes for other critical facilities, which together we can identify on that. So that's another opportunity with that. The urban and suburban areas, we could review the underground infrastructure of these areas. So ROSO, Greater ROSO to include other suburban areas outside of ROSO, Canefield, Goodwill, etc., etc. We could look at, and also Portsmouth. And also we could look at linking key load centers and urban areas. So look at linking ROSO to Portsmouth and an underground system so that the restoration and resiliency can be improved. So these are some opportunities that we can look at. Another initiative and opportunity that can be looked at is what is termed planned islanding. And to explain what planned islanding is, it is to put local sources of generation and distribution in certain either remote or areas that have critical facilities. For instance, the Douglas Charles Airport. It took us a while to build the transmission line from the Sugarloaf plant in Portsmouth to that facility. If there was a planned islanding system there, then that location, including the airport, could have been self-sustained until the TND system was rebuilt and then joined. It would be a backup system, so it wouldn't be necessarily a permanent operating system. So these are some opportunities that we could look at. And just to close, to implement some of these initiatives, these resilient initiatives, it will take a lot of collaboration because they are very, very costly. But they are costly in the short term, but in the long term, it will improve the resiliency. So it will require collaboration between us, DOMLEC, other utilities, the government, and international funding agencies to access concessionary funding, etc., so that we can implement these things together. So thank you very much.